Hello fellow cinephiles, Film Guru here. Today I'm reviewing Freaky. This was written and directed by Christopher Landon and stars Catherine Newton and Vince Vaughn. The film follows the story of Millie, played by Catherine Newton, a young teenage girl who doesn't fit in. She's picked on by fellow students and teachers alike. She has two best friends and has suffered the loss of her father. After a football game, Millie, who's serving as mascot, is left alone. She is subsequently attacked by the blissful butcher, played by Vince Vaughn, who upon stabbing her with a cursed blade, they switch bodies and the killer is in his new body, begins a killing spree. It's up to Millie and her friends to put a stop to the killer once and for all. I really enjoy this film. I'm a big fan of Christopher Landon films. I really love the Happy Death Day films and also Detention and Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. I really think he's an inventive director. I like that he's doing horror comedies and doing them in different ways, which I really like. And he's sort of done a horror comedy slasher film here. And I was really impressed with what he was able to do here. Ultimately, the film starts as a more straight-laced horror. There's a really great opening sequence that reminded me of Friday the 13th in many ways. You've got kids sitting around a campfire telling ghost stories, but talking about a particular slasher killer that some believe exists, some don't, and ultimately, subsequently, they're all killed. But it's really well done. Vince Vaughn's great in this scene. The killer is really interesting. I like the idea of the sort of cursed blade that he ultimately takes. And I like the death scenes in it, very inventive and original and unique, and something refreshing in this sort of realm, which is something that Christopher Landon does really well. And ultimately the film descends into that horror comedy more element than the straight-laced at the beginning, which I kind of like, and Vince Vaughn adds a lot of humour here. I think Catherine Newton and Vince Vaughn are both really good here, playing interesting characters, but when they switch bodies as well, that's really interesting. The way that Catherine Newton plays the blissful butcher as a teenage female girl is really great. She's menacing and dark, and she plays it really well, and she captures a lot of Vince Vaughn's mannerisms, which I really liked, and sort of makes this character quite disturbing and unsettling in many ways, and she's really great in this film. And Vince Vaughn's brilliant. Whoever came up with the idea of having him play a character that ultimately switches bodies with a teenage girl, and just how he plays Millie as a girl trapped in a man's body, it's really fantastic. He adds a lot of humour to the film with some really great moments with him. He captures Catherine's mannerisms as well and Millie's mannerisms and does a really great job with that. He's menacing when he needs to be, but he's also very funny, and he's able to do that. But whoever came up with this idea was brilliant, because he's just fantastic to watch. And he adds so much to it. He was the main draw card to go into see this. Besides Christopher Landon, he was the main draw card for me, because I thought he would be brilliant playing this sort of role. And I really love his element to the film and his moments. He's just great to watch. What I liked most about this film is it was a real homage to classic slasher films such as Halloween, and the way the character twists his head and moves. Friday the 13th in this sort of setup of the slasher killer, the mask he wears, unstoppable force. It just feels like Friday the 13th in many ways. And aspects of Scream as well. You've got the heroine who has to overcome something to beat the villain. People don't expect her to be as capable as she is, and I kind of like that. Ultimately, having Millie's sister Char as a cop is really good. It sort of feels like Scream with Dewey and his sister in the first Scream film, and them sitting around the table having breakfast is really great homage to that. And like Happy Death Day, this film has a lot of heart. Character and her family, the loss they've suffered, she's interesting to watch and captivating, and I really like family dynamic to the film, and you really feel for the characters more like that. You want her to succeed and overcome the killer and survive to the end. A handful of scenes stuck out to me. I love the opening that reminded me of Friday the 13th Part 2 in many ways. There's a scene that takes place in a haunted house in this sort of bowling alley, which I really like. That's really well done. And the third act of the film and the ending I really liked. What they're able to do there. It could have ended in a certain place, but ultimately they kept going and got a complete rounded ending, and I really liked that. The only things I thought they could have done a little better was the humour. They could have pushed the humour a bit more, especially with Vince Vaughn there and his ability as a comedian. They could have really honed and harnessed that in many ways, and I thought he could have been a lot funnier than he was, even though he was very funny in the film. They could just really take full advantage of Vince Vaughn and his comic timing and his ability to be quite humorous. There were asshole sort of schmucky characters in the film that you didn't really care about. They made him really despicable and nasty and mean, and ultimately when they died you were happy, and I didn't kind of like that. I didn't think you needed to do that. They sort of were a bit over the top and a bit too much for me, and they could have sort of dialed that down quite a bit. I think ultimately Landon has a great ability to craft really interesting characters you not only like but care about, which is sometimes hard in these sort of films to create characters that you connect and care about throughout the film and you want them to survive to the end. And I think he does a great ability of that. I like his choice and use of music in films and in his films, and I really like what he does with that, and this is no exception. Overall, it was a fun and entertaining film that any horror fan would really get a kick out of. Final thoughts. Ultimately, it's about Millie overcoming things. It's about Millie coming to understanding of who she is and working out who she is and what she wants and the type of person she is and how she goes about that. And that makes her a very compelling and interesting character. I'm going to give Freaky 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was fun and entertaining. Like his other films, I'm a big fan of this. I highly recommend it if you like horror films, especially slasher films, or if you like any of his other films. It's just a really fun and wild ride, and I had a ball with it. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit subscribe down the bottom. Follow me on Facebook. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.